Hello and welcome to the Enhancing Your English podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Demi, and today is episode 3, a quick warning about word roots. Now, in both episodes 1 and 2, I talked about Latin and Greek word roots and how I thought that learning them over time could help you with your vocabulary. Now, I do believe that's true. However, to be fair, I also want to add a warning about word roots. Because although they're useful and a tool that can help you with some words, I also don't want to give you the impression that they are some magic way to learn vocabulary. Because to be honest, there are some problems with them. And let me explain what I mean. For example, in episode 1, I told you that DEC was Latin for 10 and could be seen in words like decade, which means 10 years. However, that doesn't mean that every time you see DEC at the beginning of an English word that it's going to mean 10. Let me give you a simple example. Let's take the word decide, which of course means to choose. In the spelling, there's only one letter that's different between decade and decide. So it might be easy to think that they come from the same root. But actually, that's not the case. Decide comes from a different Latin root, decidere, which means to cut off, as in you cut off the other options and make a choice. So even if you knew that DEC often means 10, it wouldn't help you with a word like decide. And also, another thing we know about languages is that they're always changing, always evolving. And this can also be a problem in trying to figure out words using word roots. Let me give you 2 examples of this. The first example is also from episode 1, and it's the month December. Now, like we said before, in December, the DEC does mean 10. But since the ordering of the months on the calendar changed 2,700 years ago, it's now the 12th month. So again, even if you knew that DEC meant 10, it wouldn't really help you in this case. And here's another example. This one's more difficult. It's the word decimate. Now, to decimate something means to almost completely destroy it. And in this case, again, the DEC in this word does mean 10. But the original meaning of this word was different than it is now. This word is very old and was used in ancient Roman times and even before that. Now, this word was used in the Roman army. If the Romans fought in a battle and the soldiers fought badly, or they were not brave enough, sometimes after the battle, their punishment was to be decimated. Now, in this punishment, the soldiers would gather in groups of 10, and each group would have a lottery. One soldier out of the 10 in each group would lose the lottery, and that soldier would be killed by the other 9. And that was the original meaning of the word decimate, that 1 in 10 would be killed. However, as that punishment became less and less common over time, the meaning of the word changed. And eventually, it came to mean the almost complete destruction that we know it as today. So again, just like with December, if you knew the DEC in decimate meant 10, you would have been right. But it wouldn't have helped you in guessing the current meaning of the word. So that's a problem with these Latin and Greek word roots. Not only do they take time and practice to learn, but they're not always going to work or be able to help you. So yes, I do think they're useful. And yes, I do think they're a tool that can help you. But I also don't want you to think that they are a magic way to learn all vocabulary quickly, because unfortunately, that's just not true. Now, before I go today, I do want to share something that has helped me as I've been learning Japanese vocabulary. And that's using a flashcard app on my cell phone and iPad. Now, like many people, I used to make paper flashcards to help me learn words in Japanese. And I'd write the Japanese on one side and the English on the other. And this worked fine, but there were two problems. One was it wasn't always convenient to study the paper flashcards at any time. For example, sometimes if I was going to take a bus or train, I'd think, oh, this is a good chance to study. But if the bus or train was crowded and I had to stand with many people around me, it wasn't easy or convenient to try to take them out to study. The second problem was that as I kept making flashcards, I ended up having big stacks of paper flashcards, which also wasn't so convenient. So, about 5 years ago, I found an app that helps me make and download flashcards right onto my cell phone and iPad. The one that I use is called Flashcards Deluxe, and I've been happy with it. I bought it in the US iTunes App Store. I don't remember exactly how much I paid, but it was around $5 US. Now, today, there are many apps for making flashcards. So if you want, you can go into your country's app store and take a look around and see what looks good to you. The one that I use, the way it works, is that first I type in the text that I want on an Excel spreadsheet. Then I copy and paste that into the Flashcards Deluxe website. Then I can download the cards right onto my iPhone or iPad through their app. That might sound a little complicated, but actually it's pretty easy. The way the flashcard shows up on my iPhone is, for example, the Japanese word I'm studying will show up on the screen, and when I touch the screen, the English meaning will then appear. I can also change this to have the English meanings appear first, or mix it up and do it randomly. I can study my words in order, or I can have them come up randomly too. I can also say whether I answered the card right or wrong by swiping my finger on the screen, and the app keeps track of my percentages. Over the years, I've downloaded about 3,000 flashcards that I can now study or review anywhere, anytime on my iPhone. For example, I'm waiting a couple minutes for a bus to come, I can study. I've got a couple extra minutes in between classes, I can study. It was definitely one of the best $5 I've ever spent, and one of the best ways that I found for helping me learn and review Japanese vocabulary. Well, that's all for today. So thank you very much for listening to this short episode of the Enhancing Your English podcast. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to contact me at kevin@enhancingyourenglish.com. So thanks again for listening, and best of luck enhancing your English.